Fox. And this was excavated, and the date would be about 700 to 500 before the Common Era, and the Manongal jar is a burial jar. So this is one of the characteristics of our ancestors. They did not bury the person permanently, but they put them in jars. They wait for the exhumation. When the material remains have deteriorated, they gather the bones and put it in the jar. And on top of the jar is a sculpture of a canoe, which carries the soul of the deceased. And there is a oarsman, yung paddler, who is bringing the dead to the ocean. In other words, death is not something fearsome, but it's another adventure. You will go into a journey of eternity. So that is the message of this burial jar. So you can see malalim po ang ating kultura tungkol sa dagat. At ang buhay natin ay nakasalalay sa dagat, sa bundok at sa kalikasan. Susunod, ito, ipinakikita natin na si Arturo Valdez ay nagsimula na buhayin ang teknolohiya ng Balanghai. Ito ay maghusay na paraan upang ating huwag kalimutan na ang ating mga ninuno ay hindi tribos, paganos, salvajes. Yun ang sabi ng mga Kastila sa atin. Yung mga pagan savages. Hindi totoo yan. Sinungaling yung mga still and also propelled not by paddling or sailing, but by very big motors, usually Komatsu or Yamaha or Fiedler, itong mga gumagawa ng marine engine. But before, this is propelled by human knowledge and also by sail and paddling and by experience. How do I do this? Next. What is the right? Next. Can you go to the next? Right. Now, this is a reminder that we are not separate from the rest of Southeast Asia. When we talk of globalization, no, it's all right. I better stand up. All right. This is a map of our archipelago. We are Orang Laut, Orang Selat, Kunlun, Wakwak, kung ano ang mga tawag sa atin. Ang mga ninuno natin ay kasapi sa Austronesian people. Ang ating mga wika ay agglutinative. Magaling tayong gumawa ng mga salita, bagong salita sa isang root word. Yung magaling yung what we call ability to improvise. We can make rhyme. Anyway, that's the literary aspect of Austronesian language. And those of you who are studying linguistics should study how to make very good words and communication in our... In other words, tayo ay kasapi ng Malayo, Polynesian, Austronesian people at hindi mahihiwalay sa ibang mga kapwa natin. Kaya maganda yung merong ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. At saka tamang sinabi ni Duterte, I am not president of the international community. I am president of the Filipino people. So mahalaga yon. Next, please. Yeah. Alright, this is our archipelago. Our people are part of the sea. In fact, merong kasabihan na Banwa Terpisa, Samudra Bersatu. Ang ibig sabihin noon, ito alam ng mga tao sa Tawi-Tawi, sa Turtle Island. Pero yung mga taga Manila, hindi na alam to. Ang continents divide, but oceans unite. So, parang sinabi rin ni Alexander the Great, also Cambyses of Persia, sinabi nila, masyadong continents, ang dami-daming bundok, nagkakahiwa-hiwalay ang tao, wala pang mga railroad, walang MRT. Kaya ang paglalakbay ay sa dagat at sa ilog. Kaya itong kasabihan na ito na mahalaga ang globalization. Ang globalization is not only when America, when the Europeans established international trade. Our people, Austronesians, are already global. Kaya tayo orang laut, orang samudra. Alright, we are people of the ocean. At ang isa pa, hindi lamang tayo mga tauhan ng dagat, ng samudra meaning ocean, dagat, laut, but samudra means a vast ocean. Alright. And itong mga taong ito, ang pinakamahalaga, meron pa, hanggang ngayon, buhay sila. Ang pinag-aaralan namin, mga kaibigan ko, sa Tawi-Tawi, sa Subanon, around Main Island, up to Turtle Island and Solog, up to Sabah, up to Sulawesi. These people are live here, and they're Bajau, Sama de Laot, Mandar, Bugis, all of these are orang laut, and they are connected with the mountain. Alright, so next please. Here is the trade route. Ang pagka sinabi nila, globalization is introduced by the Westerners in the Industrial Revolution. Hindi totoo. Globalization started in our area 1,500 before the Common Era. And these are the trade routes. And in fact, yung sina Vasco da Gama, sina Magellan, they just got lost here. But the trade routes were established by the Austronesians. Alright. This is our archipelago. And so, we are an archipelago. We are orang laut. We are orang samudra. And so, this is very important. The linguistic borrowing shows how much the Austronesian people borrow from each other and also admit Sanskrit, Chinese language, and so on. So, study of languages is important. And in seafaring, you have to know a lot of languages. Seafarers are very adept, they are adjustable, and they are, seafaring is not for the timid of heart. You have to be adventurous, you have to be courageous, you have to take risks, you have to love what is the unknown and to pioneer. This is what I experienced talking to many seafarers, and they are also they understood how it is important to be resourceful, to be patient, and to have good sense of humor. There are many sailor jokes. I will not tell you in public, but there are. So next, please. Here is our connection. Our connection is really Southeast Asia. It is sad, mangyari itong mga sina Magellan, the first thing he did was to say, I converted the Cebuanos. Hindi totoo yan. The Filipinos really have their own organized religion, organized trade routes, and of course, by the 14th century, the Muslims organized sultanate, and the Maguindanao Sultanate, the Sulu Sultanate, is very good because they began to have a common philosophical, religious philosophy to counteract Western colonization. And this, I think, kailangan buhayin itong kultura na ito sapagkat ang kanilang pag-iisip ay we can theologize. We have our own philosophy. We have our own economic policy. We can choose our friends and our enemies. Yun ang nangyari sa mga Kristiyano. The priest and the colonizers will tell you who are your friends, who are your enemies. And your enemy is the Muslim. Hindi totoo yan. So, I think there is also important to change the attitude of the Christianized, Westernized, McDonaldized, Coca-Colized Filipino and to understand that our ancestors took their own initiative. They decided who are their friends, who are their enemies. And this idea of every Muslim is a terrorist is a campaign of the West. The Western press is very, very aggressive and very efficient. And so, our work in our university and educational system is to change this attitude. we have to be open-minded, and like the Orang Laut, always open. We are open to more opportunities. All right. Next, please. So we are now here. Where is the origin? When I was a student, we were told, oh, the original home of the Australasians is Taiwan. But recent excavations in 1992 in Hemudu, the very important site in Southeast Asia, showed that mangyari in mga Chinese, sabi nila, Chinese civilization started in the central plains, Hubei, Henan, Shanxi, up to Shandong. Sa kanila, it diffused south. The excavations in Zhejiang, in Fujian, in Sichuan, in Yunnan showed there is an underlying Austronesian basis in Chinese civilization. And this is Hemudu, and all the artifacts there show that the Austronesian, they are not Chinese, they are Malayo-Polynesian. And the skeleton, the DNA, they have examined the DNA, they're all related to Austronesia. Next, please. So that is the spread of, now here, the spread of the Hemudu site showed all the assemblages that are connected with Austronesia. Number one, language. Number two, rice cultivation, yours of metal, gold building. So the excavations in three sites, there are three sites. Those of you who are interested in archaeology, I will help you. I give you the bibliography, and so that we can, because the reports are in Chinese, so we have to help, we have to work together with the Chinese, the Malay, and so on. All right. So this is a very important one, where boats, because the Hemudu site, there are three sites shown. They built boats. They had oars. They had fiber, they had metals, and they also have what we call very good technique in carpentry and to use the materials available in the environment, which is very important. And this one spread to Taiwan, Southeast Asia, and the Austronesians traveled by 1,500. They reached New Zealand in the southeast, and also Hawaii, all the way across the Pacific, and then to Easter Island, Soran. Then later on in the west, all the way through the Malacca Straits to the coastal areas of the continent of India, and then all the way to Madagascar in Africa. So yung globalization, sino nag-umpisa? Tayo, right, Austronesia. And they traded. They did not conquer people. They did not seize territory. They lived and, of course, intermarried with the local people. And so there are ethnographic reports from Madagascar, Easter Island, Hawaii, of course, and then Australia, Northeast Australia. Alam niyo, merong mga sampalok sa Australia. Sino gumagawa ng sinigang? Alright. So, and merong sampalok sa Fujian. Yung mga excavations sa China, maraming kalan. Yung kalan na yung gawa natin yun. Pakikita ko sa inyo yung mga kalan. Next please, ito yung outrigger canoe, the extent. And this is language. Languages is also important because we accept all kinds of words. Sanskrit, Prakrit, Tamil, yung Katarman. Merong mga salita na galing sa Tamil. Merong salita na galing sa Sanskrit. The Laguna Copper Plate inscription is a very good example of how our language can absorb, and it indicates cultural relations. So, languages is important. Right. Next, please. Go next. Now, this is what they call Lapita ware. This is dated 1000 before the Common Era. The latest one, the one that we have is the site in Masbate, which was studied by Sondheim, who was my teacher also in archaeology. This Lapita ware shows the technique of pottery. Pottery is the diagnostic artifact for Neolithic. Neolithic is a revolution. It changed the hunting, gathering, foraging to agriculture, domestication of plants and animals. We domesticated very, very important plants, right? And the Austronesians, when they travel, they bring people, the cartoparts. These are parang langka, yung mga sago, yung mga yung coconut. All these are very important root crops because they can be stored for months on the ship. And also cooking, yung kalan. We found kalan, yung kalan ng Malay Polynesian, sa Fujian, the 1275 sunken ship contained artifacts from art. Tapos sino nagganganga, may nganga, pinang. In fact, the Chinese no pinang. Tapos merong parang yung mga buto ng sampalok. Hindi naman marunong magsigang yung mga Northern Chinese. But sa atin yan. So, the artifacts, the language, and so on. Next, please. This is Lapita ware. So, this is another one, another evidence that 1,500 before the Common Era, 500 before the Common Era, we were already in global trade. This is nephrite. There are several times, steatite, nephrite, and jade. But nephrite, the best hard one, we found in Tabon. Saan galing yung nephrite? Meron tayo jade or jadate, but it is in Batangas. Naubos na yon. But this one, the latest technology is very helpful because we can now check all the trace elements in every artifact, and the archaeologists joined research from Southeast Asia, Australia, and I don't know whether what is an American, but this is a joint project to identify the artifacts. We were able to identify the quarry. The quarry is Fangtian, and Fangtian is in Taiwan. So, yung Lapita ware, all over from New Guinea, all the way to Masbate, all the way to Vietnam. Itong mga palayok na ito, hindi lamang kinakalakal, kundi yung teknolohiya. Ang ibig sabihin nun, we were traveling by sea, not by land bridges. Nung ako estudyante, ang turo sa amin land bridge, 20 to 10,000 BC. In the interglacial, our Earth, high rise, low down. Kahapon, pinag-usapan ito ni Dr. Silingan. Alright. So we are in the interglacial ngayon, 2018. So, yung interglacial, hindi totoo na lahat may land bridge. They had to go by ship. And the site in Zhejiang is very important because it showed na naglakbay sila sa dagat. Walang land bridge. And also this one, nephrite, came from the quarry in Fangtian. And yung mga nakita natin sa Tabon, yung mga nakita natin sa Batangas, ang iba sa Santa Ana, yung merong nephrite doon, galing sa Fangtian. So, paano nakarating yan? Sa dagat. Alright. So, next. And then here we have also another trade. We have language, we have DNA, we have boats, we have pottery, and now technology, that is bronze. Bronze is copper and tin. Remember that for example, in Persia, we have found, for example, pottery that is called luster, yung makintab na palayok. Yung tin doon, that is from tin. Alam nyo, that is about what? 700, 800 CE. Saan galing yung Persian luster pottery? Wala silang tin. So the tin came from Malaya, from Indonesia, Belitung Island. Kaya mahalaga yung global trade all before, way before Magellan and Vasco da Gama. At saka don't forget, Vasco da Gama and Magellan did not come on their own. They were guided by Malay and Asian pilots. Vasco da Gama relied on a pilot from the western coast of India. Magellan had a pilot uh, called Enrique de Malacca, who's Malay, and guided him. Of course, he was very bright. He did not tell him where the Spice Islands were. Tapos na uwi siya sa Papua New Guinea, tapos sa Butuan. Buti nga, niligaw siya. Alright. Absorb and you also give. And to expand, there is improvisation, there is expansion, there is contraction, and selection. Alright. So here is bronze drum. It's called Dong Son from the site in Vietnam. And if I told you that the lapita ware is found also in South Vietnam, so we also have trace of drums. This drum, the one on top, shows you how the ship is organized. The shape of the ship, this is a wooden hulled ship with a prow up so that it can ride the waves, all right? And then there is a keel, and then it is propelled by oars, by paddling and sail. The Dongson drum does not indicate the sail, but I will show you the sail and the rigging later on. And then also, below is a very important drum, which is found in Sichuan, in southwest China. So there is evidence that in China, there is Austronesian underneath the so-called Han, yeah, the northern one. And it shows you a house that looks like a Ifugao house. And the ritual that is going on showed the musical ensemble of Austronesian cymbals, drums, hanging drums, what is this? Small drums. There are drums that you beat on the timpano, drums that you beat this way. So musical instruments also found on this drum. And this is in Sichuan, Si Chai Sham. Right. And tapos yung bahay, mukhang Ifugao house. Right. So next, alright. Now, that gives me now the modern one. What is happening to our modern ships? Dr. Laksina of National Museum will talk to you about the Balanghai structure and how it is made. What I will tell you is the heritage, which is very complicated. Talking about heritage, I am very proud that I am Malay, that I come from this country that we have developed. But as we assess our ancient heritage, mga anak ko, mga apo ko, we have to also discard some of the deleterious, not admirable from the point of view of 2018 ethics. Number one, we will discard headhunting. Alisin natin yan sa ating kultura. Another one, violent vendetta. That is bad. As we absorb the past, we must discard also or develop. Another one, do you know the word mag-ayaw? That is kidnapping. Well, at that time, land was plentiful. Ang dami-daming lupa, kulang ang tao. So, ang gagawin ng mga tribo, pupunta doon sa kabila, magnanakaw ng tao. So, not to enslave them, but to get, of course, wives. Mahalaga yun. Yeah. And, women were used as trade commodity. Yeah, like people. Women were number one trade commodity. Do you know the story of Homer about Helen? Oh, that is a war on the trade commodity, the woman. All right. So this is universal. All right. Anyway, I talk to you this because in modern life we have to be more critical of our inheritance. So discard headhunting, violent vendetta, mang-ayaw, yung kidnap for ransom. Also, yung kidnap for ransom is not only us. That was practiced all over the world. Alam ba ninyo si Elizabeth I? Do you know how she was able to conquer Scotland, Wales, and Ireland? He relied on the contribution of two very famous pirates na naging sir sa kanila, si Thomas Cavendish at saka si Francis Drake. That is how Elizabeth was able to build her empire. So piracy was a normal practice in the world. It is only later on, about the 1760s, there is a European convention on stopping piracy, but they failed, right? And piracy up to today. And I have to tell you also another feature of the Austronesian culture we must discard: headhunting, vendetta, kidnapping, and the other one that we have to discard also is piracy. Alright. So because yung ating mga orang laot, mga mandar, mga bugis, when the opportunity occurs, they pillage and they seize people. So that is another aspect of our ancient culture we must discard. Alright. But we must have a replacement, and that is peace. Alright. In fact, I will be talking about, I don't know if I have time, I will be talking about the Malay Code. The Malay Code is very important, and it is been translated. The code was probably developed in the late 16th century around Malacca. Malacca was a Muslim sultanate that replaced Srivijaya, Majapahit, and so on. All right. It is important to understand this code because it is a maritime code, a kind of behavior and so on that is important for the crew to survive. For any expedition to survive, you have to have a nakoda, you have a kamudi, or anyway, all of this stratified hierarchy on board the ship is like a social organization, social, political, economic organization. And what is important also about this Malay Code is that it included those who were slaves or captured in war. They could trade. In other words, they can make money. They were not chattel. This is a very important code to study. Anyway, I wrote about it, and you can read about it. Now, why do I have to go? All right. Yesterday, we were talking about the importance of seafarers not to be confined to just one occupation. You have to diversify. You have to be versatile. And I tell you, our Austronesian ancestors were very versatile. They were linguists, they were craftsmen, they were agriculturists, they knew plants and animals that can survive the long journey. They were polyglot, they knew languages, they were good diplomats, and so on. So they were very versatile. And I show you to go, because this is a modern company owned by Domingo Uy and Dennis Uy. This family was given ASEAN legacy last time during the ASEAN conference. Why do I have to go? To go is an example of diversification. They started in Tagum, in Davao, with a small hardware store. From the old hardware store, they were repairing some machinery. And then they went into machinery engine, motor engines. After that, they were able to earn money to get a big loan from PCI Bank, which was then owned by the Tan family. And then after a long fight, Henry C. took over PCI and again BDO, all right? Yeah, right. So they were able, this is one thing, they're very smart. They see the interrelationship of one technology, one activity, economic activity, and how to proceed and to create what we call in the business language of MA Business Harvard, PERT CPM. In other words, you know, the production, let's say food production, processing, yeah, manufacturing in large scale, and then branch out. And this is to go. So from the, nakita ko yung kanilang store, wala na yung kanilang, but now to go has more than about 30 ships, yeah, 30 ships. Before, they were just taking care of warehousing, yung logistics. They help in catering, and lumago yung kanilang catering, lumago yung kanilang warehousing, lumago ang kanilang delivery on land. In other words, they were servicing the ships. But then later on, cargo has to be brought inland. Meron silang truck. So to go is a integrated business which started with logistics for servicing the ships in Davao, in Sasa Port, and up to Davao Gulf, and all the way to Luzon, Visayas, and so on. And to go, si Dennis Oy was able to get money. This is one thing about Filipino entrepreneurs and businessmen. We do not know how to cooperate and incorporate. Ang ginawa ng mga Dennis Oy, pumunta sa mga bankers. Who owns the bank in our country? We were talking about how remittances are so big from OFW, but our remittances, billions of dollars, is not being plowed into new industry for Filipino at home. Itong mga Chinese, magaling sila. And to go is an example, Udena Corporation, they diversify. And yung mga ethnic Chinese, marunong sila eh. So, you want to provide logistics for, alright, I have to stop, and so that anyway, to diversify is very important, and to cooperate. And what they do, remember, the banks control your savings, yeah? RCBC, Metrobank, Allied Bank, all of this, yeah? Ayala, Sobel, but we don't have banks. Our OFW, our overseas contract workers remittances, you should have a bank. I don't know what happened because Roberto Oca used to organize the savings of the seafarer. I don't know what happened to that one. I will stop now because I've been told that I have talked too much. Thank you.